Class, today we take the high-stakes test. It is imperative that you all do your best on the high-stakes test. Your school will be labeled failing and closed if you don't do your best. Your teachers will be fired if you don't do your best. Real estate agents will say this is a bad neighborhood if you don't do your best. The state superintendent will not be re-elected if you don't do your best. We will now begin the test. Please log into the computer with your username and password.
Mrs. Jones, I do not know my password and I am only 8 years old. How can I remember my password?
Jenny, you must remember your password. I cannot tell you your password because the testing manual states that would be a breach of testing procedures and I could have my teaching license revoked for a breach of testing procedures. This is a high-stakes test. You must do your best.
Mrs. Jones, I remember my password.
Class, please continue working on your high-stakes test. Your teacher will be labeled ineffective if you don't do well on this test. You must do your best.
Mrs. Jones, the computer program just kicked me out. I cannot take the test.
Jenny, log in again. You must take this high-stakes test. You must do well on this test or property values in this neighborhood will go down.
Mrs. Jones, I logged in, answered one question, and it kicked me back out. It won't let me log in again.
Jenny, I am sure CTB McGraw-Hill is working on the problem. The testing manual says I must note the time your computer stopped working on the testing irregularities form. Jenny, what time did your computer stop working?
I don't know. I cannot tell time. I am only 8 years old, Mrs. Jones.
Jenny, we must know what time your computer stopped or our school will be labeled failing and we will receive less funding. This is a high-stakes test. You must do your best.
I have logged back in, Mrs. Jones. It is working. Mrs. Jones, the computer said I was finished taking the test, but I only answered one question. I think I should have answered more than one question. I think the computer messed up.
Jenny, I cannot tell you how many questions are on the test. The testing manual says if I tell you how many questions there are, it would be a breach of test security and I could lose my teaching license. I will note your concern on the testing irregularities form. Class, I have just received a notice from the school district's test coordinator, who gets paid a lot of money to make sure you do well on the high-stakes test. I am instructed to only let half of you take the test. CTB McGraw-Hill says if only half of you take the test, the computer testing program will work. I will note this irregularity on the testing irregularity form. This is a high-stakes test. Please do your best. If you do not do your best, there will be an article in the newspaper that says our school is a failing and in need of an intervention. A for-profit takeover company will run our school. This is a high-stakes test. You must do your best.
But Mrs. Jones, I am only 8 years old.